Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
This week, we're joining Howard Priestman on his beautifully restored 1977 46-foot Whiticar. Howard invited us to join him on an early season scouting trip to the east side of the Gulf Stream looking for yellowfin tunas. While on this trip, we had a lot of time to kill, and I learned that Howard had a really unique reason for starting this project.
Well, I was looking for a new business opportunity. I had been in the medical device business for my entire professional career, and I was looking for something different to do. I'd always been drawn to boating, and I wanted to tackle a carpentry project that could make use of my skills as a furniture builder. And I came across this Whiticar. It happened to be right here in Stuart where I live, and the owner of it hadn't used the boat in 5 years, hadn't left the dock. He had owned it for 25 years and was happy to see someone buying it who was actually going to restore it as opposed to just take it to the junkyard.
Howard started off with a great knowledge of woodworking, but when it came down to building the entire boat, he really didn't know what he was up against, and he was in for some surprises.
I really had no idea what I was getting into. I found this old boat. It was run down. It needed paint. It needed fiberglass. It needed a lot of what I would say mechanical work in terms of carpentry. You know, you looked at the inside and it was just beat up, and I said, well, that's something I can do. I spent the first 3 months tearing the boat apart. I wore a Tyvek suit. I had a grinder, really trying to get down to bare wood everywhere before we started rebuilding the boat. So it was a huge undertaking, and had I known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Ultimately, it was decided that Howard was going to have to enlist the help of professionals to deal with systems that he was unfamiliar with.
So working on this project, I had a master mechanic who helped me really from beginning to end. He was in charge really of the engine work, the generator, putting in most of the mechanical systems, helping with most of the plumbing systems. I had a professional electrician who did all the electrical wiring on this boat. I used a professional painter, fiberglass guy. He oversaw basically all the paint work, and I had 3 or 4 carpenters working on the boat with me as well. So there was a lot of professional help on this for sure. So when we first got on the boat, if you looked at the cockpit, the teak decks were worn out. You know, the hatches, everything was just a nightmare. It just wasn't functional. There was a lower helm station in the cockpit. I didn't think that was very functional anymore, given the way most people use boats today. Not that I had a lot of experience, but it seemed to be very valuable real estate for cabinetry and ice boxes, for bait. You know, you need a bait freezer, you need a drink box. The covering boards were originally painted fiberglass, so I needed to relay those out for rod holders. I put in the Carolina fish box and dressed it up with teak covering boards. Looking at the salon doors, originally they were painted white. As I tore the boat apart, pulled off some of the paint, and I realized that these doors were actually teak doors. So I stripped them down to bare wood and refinished them, and so now they're nice varnished teak doors, but these are the original doors in the boat. In the salon area, completely relaid it out to be more modern, so there's plenty of refrigeration and freezer space in the salon. The U-shaped galley with a stovetop for cooking, we've got the sink, we've gotten everything you would need for a family of 4 to travel around. Laid out a couch which can double as an extra berth. And then as we moved through the boat into the lower sections, there were originally a single stateroom with a companionway upper and lower berth and full wet head, so you turn on the shower and the whole head would get wet. So I relayed out the staterooms and made it a 2-stateroom boat, laid out for basically a family of 4 to go fishing, or 4 guys could comfortably go fishing for, you know, a weekend or a long week, whatever it may be. The bridge required a lot of work too. There was a lot of damage from the recent hurricanes, so it really just needed to be redone. And because I was redoing it, I figured I might as well lay it out completely new. I put in new 2 helm seats as opposed to a single captain seat up top. I laid it out so you had plenty of storage, and I actually specially built a long bench seat that would be long enough to accommodate fishing rods. So that was one of the goals up there.
Now obviously Howard never ended up selling this boat. As it turns out, he was building his own Dreamboat all along.
While originally I was building this boat for resale, I certainly was designing the layout of the boat for myself and my family and thinking about how would we use this boat. So it was my dream boat I was building. I just thought I was building it for someone else's dream. 8 years later, it has turned into my dream boat because I have the privilege and the honor of being able to use this boat now on a very regular basis and logging more and more hours throughout the Bahamas and fishing and really enjoying the boat. My family loves it and I love it and look forward to using it as much as we can.
After looking this boat over from front to back, top to bottom, and seeing how beautiful the quality of this finished work was, it was hard to imagine this was Howard's first build. He ended up with something that even the people at the Whiticar Boatyard would be proud of.
After purchasing the hull and performing all repairs and custom modifications, the cost of Howard's Dreamboat comes to a total of approximately $1 million.